I have drawn borders for 41 years, and there is one I have never finished explaining. It sits in the eastern hall of the guild, under glass the color of old ice, a chart older than the station it hangs in. Apprentices come to it the way young things come to anything forbidden, sideways, pretending not to look, until the looking becomes a question they can no longer hold in their mouths. I have answered every question this hall has ever produced, except the one about that sector. For that one, I only ever say, leave it blank, and move your stylus on. This is the discipline. We are cartographers. We do not draw what is not there, and we do not draw what should not be approached. The guild has rules older than most empires, and the oldest of them concerns a stretch of dark between two minor arms of the galaxy, a stretch with no name on any chart that leaves this hall. We call it, among ourselves, only the Gap. It has been the Gap for longer than I have been alive. My newest apprentice is named Ressa. She is sharp in the way young surveyors are sharp, before the work has worn the edges down, and she found the Gap on her second week, the way they always do. She traced its border with one claw, frowning at the absence, and asked me what was there. I told her, nothing is there. That is the entire content of the record. She did not believe me, which is correct of her. Nothing is never the entire content of a record. It is only the part the guild lets you see. I was a younger cartographer once, assigned to the survey fleet that went into the Gap the last time anyone did. I was not a soldier. I was there to chart what the fleet found, to put lines on paper where before there had been guesses. We went in because of a signal, a single faint resonance from a border world inside the Gap, a signature that did not match any catalogued species, drive system, or weapon class we had on file. The fleet command called it an anomaly. I called it, in my own notes, a question that wanted an answer. The world it came from had no name we recognized either, only a designation in an old human survey log we found drifting in the outer dark, half a record from a species that had, by every account we possessed, gone quiet a long time before. The humans were not myth to us then. They were simply absent, a species the charts marked as withdrawn, unconfirmed, last contact uncertain. We did not fear them. We had no reason to. We feared, if anything, that we would find nothing at all and have wasted a fleet on an empty signal. We found the world. We did not find it empty. I will not describe what the landing teams reported, because I was not on the surface, and because the Guild's own record of that report was sealed before I ever read it whole. What I can tell you is what I charted from orbit, which is the only part of this that is truly mine. A small human settlement, abandoned in haste, structures with their doors open and nothing living inside them. And at the center of it, a single boy-sized signature, the same resonance that had drawn us across half the Gap, sitting alone in the wreck of what might have been a workshop, with something coiled around him that our instruments could not classify as either machine or organism. Our sensors gave us only static where its edges should have been, as if reality itself declined to specify. I spent 2 days mapping that settlement from the safety of high orbit, the way I had been trained to, contour by contour, structure by structure, a careful inventory of a place its own people had clearly left in a hurry. There were vehicles abandoned mid-street, doors of storage buildings standing open, as if someone had meant to come back for the contents, and never had. None of it read as a battlefield. There were no craters, no burn scars, no wreckage. Whatever had happened here had not happened with weapons. It had happened with absence, a population that had simply chosen, all at once, to be somewhere else, and left one signature behind to watch the door. The fleet commander made the decision a fleet commander makes. He sent a retrieval team to bring the signature in, not to harm it. Our orders were explicit on this, only to recover and study. I drew the approach vectors myself. I was proud of the work. It was clean cartography, every line exact, every contour annotated the way the Guild's manuals demand. I remember thinking, with the small vanity of a young surveyor, that this chart would outlive me. The retrieval team did not return, nor did the 3 ships sent after them, nor the relay drone sent after that, which transmitted 11 seconds of unintelligible interference, and then silence so total our instruments first reported it as a malfunction in the drone, and only later, when nothing else came back either, as a malfunction in our understanding of what we had sent it toward. The fleet commander gave the order to withdraw on the 4th day. I want to tell you it was caution. It was not caution. It was arithmetic. We had gone in with 11 ships and we were leaving with 8, and none of the 8 carried anyone who had set foot below the cloud line and come back to describe it. The remaining captains argued for one more attempt, a heavier landing party, sensors recalibrated, a different approach vector. The fleet commander listened to all of it standing very still, and then he said only that he had run out of names he was willing to add to a report, and gave the order to break orbit. What I remember most clearly, because I was the one who logged it, is the final pass we made before the jump out. I had the long-range optics trained on the settlement out of habit, finishing my survey even as the engines were spinning up around me, and that is how I happened to be watching when it happened. The settlement was gone. Not destroyed, gone. The way a word is gone from a page when the page has been cut away rather than crossed out. Where the boy's signature had been, there was simply absence, clean-edged, total. A wound in our instruments, with no scar tissue around it at all. I have charted craters. I have charted the slow erosion of a coastline over geological time. I had never charted a thing being subtracted, and I have never had to since, and I have spent 36 years grateful for that mercy. We did not speak of it on the journey home. The fleet commander filed his report and was reassigned to a desk posting on a quiet moon and never commanded a ship again. I filed mine and asked, in writing, what conclusion the guild wished me to draw on the master chart. The answer came back unsigned. Draw nothing. Leave the sector blank. Do not survey it again. I have obeyed that instruction for 36 years. I am, I think, the last cartographer alive who was present for the reason behind it, and I have never written the reason down, because the moment it is written, it stops being a discipline the guild's apprentices absorb in their hands and becomes a story they tell each other in the dormitories, embellished, mocked, eventually disbelieved. A discipline survives. A story gets argued with. Ressa is still standing at the glass when I come to finish the border. I take the old stylus, the same one, I am fairly sure, though instruments like this outlive several cartographers, and I have stopped being certain of provenance. And I redraw the edge of the gap by hand, the way the original record specifies it must always be redrawn, never copied by machine, so that the line stays a living act and not a frozen one. She asks me, finally, the question under all her other questions, was there ever anyone there, anyone at all? I tell her the truth, which is also not the truth, which is the only kind of answer this hall has ever permitted me. There was a world. There was a signal. There was a fleet that went to ask it a question, and the world answered in the only language it apparently possessed, which was silence, delivered completely. I do not know what became of the boy, if he was ever a boy at all by the time we arrived, or whether the word boy even applied to what we found by then. I know only that we did not go back, that no one in 36 years has proposed going back, and that every cartographer who has stood where she is standing has eventually stopped asking why and started simply obeying the blank space, the way I did, the way I am teaching her to. She looks at the redrawn line for a long moment, then she does what every good cartographer eventually does with a thing she cannot chart. She lets it stay blank, and she moves her stylus on. I close the glass case. Somewhere past the edge of every map I have ever made, the gap continues not to be drawn, not to be explained, not to be visited. A silence the size of a sector, holding, the way it has always held, the way I intend for it to keep holding, long after my hand is no longer the one that draws the line.